Hello and welcome to all beautiful souls out there. You're listening to the Restore My Soul podcast with Princess Millens, your favorite grief coach and emotional wellness specialist. In this space, we will help those who struggle with grief and loss and have real conversations about how to overcome it in every area of life. Through our personal stories, practical information, and wisdom from Princess and her special guests. We are here to educate, inspire, and empower you with the strategies you need in your emotional healing journey. We do not offer medical advice, but we believe that we can all learn to heal by creating a mindset to grow past our pain and push toward our purpose. Our goal is to remind you that grief is a journey and you do not have to walk it alone. No matter what the pain or loss is, you can be restored and live fully in your purpose. So let's push through the pain together as we share our stories of resilience, one episode at a time.
Well, welcome in everybody to another episode of Restore My Soul podcast. I am so excited and I'm so elated that you are joining me, you're watching me, you're listening to me from somewhere around the world. This is where we have real conversations and real people to talk about the things that they have survived and they have overcame in life to build that resilience. And so we want to make sure that we give you, we teach you, we inspire you, we empower you in your own emotional wellness journey. So I am your host, your favorite grief and emotional wellness specialist, Princess Millens. And I just believe that we all have a story, right? We have a story and we have a mindset. We can create that mindset that we can grow past that pain of our past and push through to our God-given purpose. So I am so excited about our special guest today, y'all. I have Coach Erika Perry in the building today, and she is so near and dear to my heart. She is the founder and executive director of Youth Talk United, which is a nonprofit organization designed to educate, empower, and engage youth in our community through service, leadership, positive decision making. She specializes in over 10 years experience in implementing and overseeing high-risk youth and young adult programs. She does a whole lot of work in the college atmosphere, and in addition to be a trained mental health specialist and professional. So I want to welcome to the show today, Coach Erika Perry. Thank you so much for being here.
My God. Thank you. This is awesome. I feel so, delighted and excited. This is great.
Yes, it is great. And I know we're going to have such a great conversation today. I'm so excited because I know that you have served in the community. You have done a lot of work. And I know that you're going to provide a lot of insight into the importance of mental health, especially when it comes to athletes and just us as individuals, right? And how we can kind of push through the things that we are going through in life, right? So I know that, I know you as Coach Perry, and all of that. That is who the world knows you as, right? But I want to start off by asking, where did that name come from, Coach Perry?
I love it.
Yeah.
I always love this question because it's so dear. It outlines, as you said, when everything was coming together we have to go through something, to enlighten us. And Coach Perry started because I was that kid that 8th grade year was walked down the aisle my senior year by her coach. I was that kid 12th grade year in collegiate senior night. I was walked down by my coach. Had the privilege of playing sports from elementary all the way to collegiate. And I always tell people, nothing to shine on my mom. We've had the conversation about this, but my mom attended one of my basketball games, and that was going into the third quarter. And it was so funny because I was so excited that I always remember I had 1976 of my stats. I remember that because I got it cut out and framed and everything. And I scored and I did so well because I was so excited that she finally told me she was coming, that I played extremely well. So by the time she came, her and my brother, he came over to the bench and whispered, said, Mom said, why are you sitting on the bench? She wasted hours at work. And I'm like, well, I gave all I could in the beginning. And now as you play sports, you have to sit. It's time for someone else to play. So that goes into the point that I was that A honor roll student. I was that kid that did so many great things in school, but I was struggling at home mentally, socially, and physically. No one was there to support me or push me. It was just, okay, you're making good grades. We're going to put you on. You keep going. I didn't have that support system, but thank God he put some coaches in my life. These were some coaches that found out and noticed what was going on and said, hey, you're not going to stop on yourself. I mean, that coach, what I met in 7th grade, the Lord behold, soccer was actually my first love. He seen me playing soccer, right? Everybody like, really? He seen me playing soccer, was like, can you do this with a basketball? I started playing. He said, well, I want you to come to practice. Soon as he started opening up his mouth, I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. I already knew with my parents that they may not do that. So as all coaches, he took me home and said, hey, you know, your daughter's quite good. And my mom was like, oh, okay. But at that point, I said a single parent home, even though my stepdad was there, he was never physical. He always said he was sick, so he never really worked. And again, nothing to shame them because it was something that I had to get over, that trauma of how they did me and my siblings. Absolutely. So he was always there, but it was still a single parent home because I can remember my mom working 2 or 3 jobs. So my mom, it was already like, okay, you can come, but I don't know how she's going to play that sport. So right then and there, my coach picked up on and said, hey, just let her start coming out to school and I'll bring her home. So he would continue to do that until his wife got into it too and seen and noticed. The wife started saying, hey, let her come around and eat dinner with us sometime. Mm-hmm. From there, they started building that rapport and relationship. Where then my coach said, hey, you know what? We going out to eat tonight. You gonna babysit Junior, which is their son, which is just like a little brother now. So those are things, relationships I built. Then it went all into my high school, where I give my coaches flowers. Now my 8th grade coach told my high school coach, look, I'm handing over my daughter to you. And I don't want to get emotional on that part. He said, I'm handing her. Yeah. And I said, okay. So now I had another male figure in my life, and also their dear wife that said, we see something in you. Right. And I've been like that and tough on my coach as I coach on my girls, because I can remember that I got to be in school. Both of the coaches got together and said, hey, bench her for the first half of the game. I'm like, what? They was like, no, bench her. And they agreed. And as I'm crying on the bench and watching my team lose, the coach told me while I'm looking up at the other coach across from us, and he said, if we let you settle now, you're going to settle in life because you don't have the best household. Wow. We expect nothing but greatness for you. And when I tell you it was all A's and summa cum laude with everything, because I knew it was someone that loved me. So why Coach Perry? Because I had coaches that embedded in me. So what did I do? I took that same thing, went to school first in social work and psychology to be able to give help, but also I started coaching because I wanted that. So when people call me coach, that's like a love language to me. You know, everybody else has a love language. Coach is a love language. That draws onto my heart. When I hear a little girl say, thank you, coach, and I'm able to look at her face and say, no, thank you, because I am you. You are her. I've been through that. It's a different story, and people don't understand. You don't know my life story or the trauma, but you will understand that coach is something that God gave me. So he made me go through something to be able to go to it and tell other people, call me coach. Yes, Erika, my birth name, but coach, that's what pulling me to do the things that I do, because somebody had to care for me. Somebody had to push and pull on me, and that was my coaches. And I love it. I'm thankful because every 8th grade year, every senior year, when I coach from all the way from elementary, high school, and collegiate, I walk somebody down the aisle. I would never been able to do that for a senior year if I didn't go through it. I mean, I would have girls, they 8th grade nights crying and hollering and throwing stuff, and I will allow them to throw the stuff and then look at them and say, hey, I'm you. I've been there. But what we going to do right now is you going to hold my hand, you going to stop crying so I can't cry. And we both going to walk down this aisle. So that coach is so dear and near to me because it was coaches that was a
Listen,
blessing to me.
that is so powerful. And I'm glad you shared that story because that's something I never knew.
Yes.
And also because in a society in a world now where the word coach is so loosely
Yeah.
used, right? Your story behind that word is just so powerful, to know that the same treatment that you received when you were a middle schooler or a high schooler, that you were able to take that and pour into others, right? And
Definitely.
so we normally don't see a lot of what is inside of us. Other people sometimes are able to see more of
Yeah.
what is inside of us than us, right?
Mhm.
And so, and I see that with your coaches, they were able to see the greatness in you. They were able to see beyond, your home life. They were able to see beyond all of that, even beyond the good grades, so what you can do on the court. And so I want you to speak on how important, because we know that mental health, emotional wellness, all
Mhm.
of that, it starts from day one. It
Yes.
starts from birth, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us grow up and we get to certain stages where if we feel like we have not been supported, or we feel that we have gone through a lot, and some of our teenagers, our young adults, they have gone through a lot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But how how important is us as parents,
Yes.
us as teachers, because I taught 20 years in classroom,
Yes.
us as coaches, us as a community, to build emotional and mental health and wellness in our children. How important is that?
Oh man, that is so important. That leads into also related to my nonprofit, Youth Talk United, and also what I do generally as a speaker and mental wellness specialist
Yeah.
is helping making mental health a norm. That means
Mm,
talking about
that's
it,
good.
speaking about it. We shy away because the culture have told us that when you speak about mental health, that something is wrong. But my job
Exactly.
is you have to educate yourself to be able to educate others. And mental health is just the label. Mental health is your social, emotional, psychological aspect. It's a label that's given. It does not mean that you have a disorder or something wrong with you. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to have mental and health. But because how we've been raised and taught, the first thing we hear, oh, it's a diagnostic.
It.
But
That's right.
however, we have to educate ourselves on what mental health is.
Yeah.
So, with that saying, it's so important to sit down your child as coaches to sit down with the kid and just say, how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
How are
Mm-hmm.
you doing? Can I help you with something?
Yeah.
But in between that conversation, to recognize some of those cues and signs of what they're going through. I've had so many youth that grew up in the sports and I would notice as they got older whether or not someone unfortunately was physically touching them or was there no communication, because I set the tone at the beginning as a parent, as I call myself, so I say babies, and also as a coach. You got to get that communication with them for them to be okay to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because we as adults, we are quick to say, you know what? Oh, they just a kid. It's okay. They're going through so much.
Yes, they
Peer
are.
pressure is not like it used to be. Social
Yeah.
media is right at your hand. I tell people social media is a handful of suicide.
Yes, it
It's
is.
and it's sad to say that, but because people look at social media all day long, it's so important to pull your child phone. I tell parents all the time, you pay for that phone. You are the owner of the phone. Check
That's
that
it.
phone. See what's
Yeah.
going on. Check those text messages. See who they're texting. Check and see what social media platforms they're on, what they're researching, what they're Googling. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff that are happening to our children is right up under the home because they're putting it out there on that platform or they got it in their phone. So
Mhm.
it's so important. And the thing about just like they say in sports, a child won't care until they know you care. That's what parenting too.
Exactly. That's it.
Until they know you care and you're okay with them talking to you, they're not going to come to you. But once you open up, but the thing about that, though, Miss Princess, is we got to let go of our trauma as adults so we can be able to receive when our kids are going through stuff.
Wow.
So that's a huge part too that I work with parents saying, okay, I understand your parent didn't communicate with you. I understand, mom, you was sexually abused too. But how can we work with that? So when your daughter come to you and say your boyfriend is doing it, you won't get upset and say no because you're still back on your trauma when nobody believe you. We have to let people go so we can be able to accept and understand all kids. And I like to say, look at mental health as a spectrum. That's kids and adults. On that spectrum, you have good mental health, mental wellness, and then you have mental health where people say bad. Guess what? That spectrum gonna go up and down. It may be a death in the family, you lean. It may be bad grades for kids, it leave. It may be a divorce. And for them, relationships, they are so important. Relationships. They want to have their matching pajamas just like adults now. So it's so important that we talk to them and understand they're going to have a spectrum. For my athletes in sports, you go from one school to the next school, and now you're not the star player, or another player steps in front of you, you're going to have some anxiety. You're going to have some depression. So it's so important that we set the tone in the beginning with talking and having communication with our kids. And communication means don't be judgmental. Come with them open-minded and say, okay, I'm going to listen to what you say. It may not be what I want to hear, but at least I know you can come to me and I can correct you the right way. That is so important for that.
Yeah. And I think, see, as you've said, a lot of the problem of our communication, especially with each other, our children, or anything like that, is because that we have not been taught in the community. We've been taught to go through what you're going to go through.
Right.
And we don't talk about it. When somebody passed away, we kind of just went on with life. We didn't talk about our feelings, nor did we go to a therapist. God forbid you say you go to a therapist. You're really crazy now, right?
Yeah, something wrong with
you. We have this cycle. We have this cycle that we're steadily chipping away from, because I think more of us are being more vocal and talking about the things that we've gone through, trying to help other people. But it can be difficult sometimes to even spot it, to even recognize or identify that your child or someone in your vicinity, in your care, is struggling. Definitely. So for me, nobody knew I was struggling when I was a teenager and all of that, because I was a good student. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. Made A's, didn't fight in any of that. You know what I'm saying? But emotionally, mentally, just breaking down every day and just did not know why. Did not have the language, right? Didn't feel like I had nobody to talk to about it as well, right? And then we get into these adults. We get to be the adults that never dealt with it. And then we bring it to our own children. But I told myself, listen, it starts with me. It starts with me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what are some, because it can be difficult, because all grief and loss and things that go on with us mentally and emotional are not always readily seen.
Yes.
Because just like you and I, we made those good grades. People didn't really know, what was going on. You know what I'm saying? But what are some of the ways that we can look out for that a young person could exhibit that they're struggling, even when it doesn't seem like it?
I would definitely say you want to look at things of change in their sleep pattern, change in what they're eating. A sleep pattern will tell you a lot. As myself, I would leave practice, go home, and go right into bed. I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was full of just rough emotions, tired, and just, it was at a point I was like, why am I even here? So I had the suicidal thoughts and everything too. So look at those sleep patterns. Yes, our kids nowadays, I hear a lot of parents, all they do is sit in their room. You need to start going there, checking in their room. What it is in their room, that the reason why they want to just stay in that room. That means you're going to have to do a lot more of being in a room with them to occupy that time with them. Also, checking their friends, who they have around them as friends. Looking at that could equate a lot. Have they friends been some friends that was 8 on a roll? Now you just see a whole switching to friends, how they look, how they walk, how they dress, and how they talk. We need to look into that. Also, you want to take a look into the things and places they want to go. They may start saying, you know, Mom, I don't want to go here. Dad, I don't want to go here. I want to go such and such. Those are the times we had a communication. Why you no longer like those friends? Why you no longer like that place? What has changed that idea? A big thing, and I know I'm so big on sports, but finding the right coach, put them in activities. Parents, we know you guys work too. You can't always be around, but you put them in activities. Activities that they like. It's going to be some they don't like, but in those activities with the right coaches, the coaches are going to pick up too on some of the things that they're going through. Look at that. For my younger babies, a lot of times you have the wristbands. This is something big. When I was actually in the office as a psychology, I had a young kid that always wore the rubber bands. I would tell his mom, check the rubber bands. The rubber bands was his form of anxiety, but he would pull it so hard that everything up under his hands was scaled. He had pulled it off. So a lot of times you see kids with all those rubber bands and everything, you want to check on those different things. Check on their different clothing that they wear. Their clothing can sometimes put in distress too. Darker clothes, you give a darker feeling. You give a darker outlook on life. You want to look into those and ask them questions. Don't just go and shop and give those things. Ask them questions. Why are they feeling that way? Ask them about their teachers. If it's something going on at school, you open up. So how is your teacher? Oh, the teacher all right, but they may jump into, it's just the people in the classroom. They always work my nerves. Now you got a spot. What you mean they work their nerves? How do they work their nerves? Now it's time to ask the teacher. I'm just doing a checkup because I see once I start asking about school, they kind of got a little up. So what are some things in school that you can check in on? Ask the teacher. It's about, most important, Princess, is being involved. You got to want to take that time to go over and beyond to be involved in your child's life and check on them because of what's going on now. Some of us, I know we hear, I just don't have the time. I'm going to tell you, make the time. Ask those questions. If you have multiple kids, I always used to suggest you need once a week where you have time with each kid. You got to make that time.
Come on.
It's JoJo time right here. It's Mike time Tuesday. It's her time Friday. Give them their individual time. At that individual time, you're watching everything. You're making sure you understand. Some of y'all got young males. Y'all understand. Watch the phone. Watch other stuff up under their bed that they may be using. We just gonna keep it real. Because those are signs when they start thinking about you're seeing different stuff in their rooms. The sexual signs. Is that good sexual signs or bad sexual signs? Is there something going on? Do you think he's going too fast? And now I need to get a halt on him because I don't need him out here messing with nobody, even inside of the house.
Exactly.
Those conversations that we don't want to talk about, but we got to be generated with it so we can be able to say, son, if you're doing this, we need to make sure you're releasing yourself the right way. And we're not just saying, as us in a black film, he going to be a boy, he going to be a boy. No, sir. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, son. I see this is now going on, but we want to make sure you're doing it right. And we also want to make sure to understand when is the time to do it. If you got an urge, I need you to, come, go talk to daddy.
Exactly.
It's communication. We don't think that it's big, but it's the smallest things that the kid gonna come back and say, dang, I do probably need to talk to dad or mom because they took the time out to talk to me. But it's not gonna be all the time. But if you start communicating with them, when you start seeing those signs, it's gonna be more easier. Because yes, as a teen, they're gonna pull away from you because they're gonna get to that time. But because y'all had a communication, there always going to be a time where they're going to slip up and say, you know what, I got into it with her, mom. Who, your friend over 10 years? Let me know more about it. Now that is your clue to, again, look in that phone. Maybe it's your clue to call that parent. How's things going? It's the communication. I would say it's the biggest thing that you set early on with your child. You watch different things, like I said, from the social media they look at, television shows they look at. And also using those television shows. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta is a big thing, to each his own on shows. As I grow older, I go different ways from different stuff, especially it utilize us, especially as Black women, in a different way. So you can still look at that and say, hey, what you think about her? How you think
Yeah.
she's showing herself? And then you contribute that to them in a communication. Now you get a feeling, because it's gonna be some kids be like, oh, I like how she look. I love what
Right.
she say. Now you
Right.
need to start thinking about those things.
Yeah.
Communication.
Communication is so key. And not just when they become high schoolers or teenagers. The
Definitely.
conversation starts is from birth again, even when
Early.
they can't even talk, right? Even when they
Mhm.
can't talk, we talking to them. They're learning how to communicate from us. So if
Definitely.
we are poor communicators, they're going to learn to be poor communicators as well. But as
Mhm.
long as we embrace them and lead them into those conversations that is going to be healthy for them, you know, they're going to have a thriving life. It takes a community. It takes we always say it takes a village to raise a child, and it certainly does. And everybody who we have that the child is in contact with and in their care for any reason, we have, I think, a responsibility to do just that.
Definitely.
um this time has gone on so quickly, but I wanted to ask you a
Yeah.
quick question as we kind of wrap this up. I know that you talk a lot about the pressure, right? Not necessarily always the peer pressure, for like even when students do sports or any activity, any extracurricular activity, because they dance and do everything else too.
Yes.
um, but sometimes there is stress and undue pressure that
Hmm.
even parents, we place on our children, even when they don't want to do the sport, even when they
Right.
don't want to go to dance practice, even when they don't want to go to this, that, and the other. They don't want to learn how to sew. They don't want to learn how to. So, but we push them into these places, right? So, can you give some quick encouragement to the parent, to the
Yes.
students, or whoever is listening, how that we can not make sure that we are not pressuring or putting undue pressure on our children like that.
Yes, parents, stop it. Stop. Stop. Allow your kid to be a kid. If they would like to do it, they will grow into it. You keep them in that environment where they possibly can see it. But if it's something they don't want to do, don't push them to do something that they don't want to do, because now you are already put in their head that they have to do things even though they don't want to. I know it seems small, but mentally psychology, now you got them in there. I don't want to do this. I didn't want to do that, but he forced me to do it. He pushed me, said I should do it. When you start that early, it seeps in their heads.
Yeah.
So give them that time to communicate. Okay, you don't want to do it. Why you don't want to do it? And I know as a sports player used to hit up, you're gonna do something, you're gonna play something. Put them in something they like so they can flourish. See, at least
That,
allow them to flourish in something they like. It may not be football, they may want to do art. It may not be
exactly.
basketball. They may want to do piano ballet. Just let them pick or something that they're going to do.
Yeah.
I do agree with parents. They need to be active. They mind don't need to be idle at home or just in front of some technology. Allow them to do that. But after they try it out and they don't want to do it, don't force them to do it. That little small force, you've already broken a relationship in some form or fashion with your child, where now they're not going to tell you anything they want to do, because if they don't like it, they're going to be scared that you're going to make them do it.
Mm,
So instead of saying, "Oh, I like that," they're going to be like, "I like it," but I ain't going to say because she's going to make me do it or he's going to make me do it. So allow them to make their choice. Unfortunately, it's not your life, it's their life. So allow them to make that choice with you. And that means as a parent, just getting information, they need to let you know why though. Because
yeah.
a why may be because I actually had a young girl that didn't want to do ballet anymore, and her parents was forcing her. But when I got through talking with her, that was because she was getting sexually abused by the coaches.
Oh, wow.
So she didn't want to be around the coaches.
Of
And then when
course.
she wasn't when getting sexual abuse, because it was predominantly white area or Caucasian area, should I say, and nothing, and always on podcasts, nothing to our family of that nature. She was getting
Yeah.
racial slurs.
Mm,
So she was going through two things at one time on there. And mom was like, we paid all this money. You gonna do this. You gonna do
mm,
this. But I just sat down and said, why you don't want to do it? You're
mm,
great at it. You're amazing at it. And she
Yeah.
just broke down.
Mhm.
So sometimes that why not has a reason why. Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that would be the biggest thing I would say. Just communicate with them on why not.
Yeah. And that is a great way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Coach Perry, for being here in this episode. I know that you have blessed so many people and so many parents, right, who have those children, whether they're in sports or not. The ones of us who are mothers, we really needed to hear this because we got to make sure that the communication is there for our children so that they can not only survive teenage years, but they can thrive in life and they can be productive members of society, right? So before we get out of here, I want you to tell everybody how to follow you on social media and how to connect with you otherwise.
All right. Yes. Number one, Coach Perry on all social media platforms. On Facebook, usually Erika Empowering Perry. I do more on that Facebook because this is my personal page. But guess what? I want the people to know that my personal is you guys' personal because I'm here to help and empower everyone. So you also can follow me on there too. And on there, you will definitely see all pages and platforms. The Talkers First Do Apparel. You see, Miss Princess got it all too. This is what we do. You will see that too because Coach Perry is all about doing and not just talking. Everybody say they want to make a change, but I'm here to say don't talk about it. Be a doer of the positive change that you want to see.
Absolutely. So thank you again, Coach P, for being here today. And this, I don't know, this might have warranted a part 2 on this one. So we'll talk later on that.
Talk about yes.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. I want to thank you all so much for being here on this episode of the Restore My Soul podcast. You all make sure that you continue to follow me at Princess Millens on all social media and my website at princessmillens.com. Remember that grief is a journey. You don't have to walk it alone. And we will see you in the next episode of the Restore My Soul podcast.
Thank you for joining another episode of Restore My Soul podcast. Be sure to listen and watch each week as we continue the conversation on how to bounce back from the setback of grief and loss and to become resilient so that you too can thrive in life. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. And share this with as many people as possible so they can be encouraged in their emotional wellness journey. We invite you to follow Princess Millens on all social media platforms and on the website at princessmillens.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Restore My Soul podcast.